The signal arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, disguised among the usual cosmic background radiation that Earth's radio telescopes constantly monitored. Dr. Sarah Chen might have missed it entirely if her advanced pattern recognition algorithms hadn't flagged an unmistakable mathematical sequence hidden within the noise. As she stared at her monitor in the dim light of Stanford's SETI laboratory, her hands trembled slightly. After 20 years of searching the stars, humanity had finally received its answer. "Director Matthews," she called, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I think you need to see this." The response was immediate and unprecedented. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the signal's authenticity. Within days, the world's governments struggled to maintain order as humanity grappled with the reality that they were not alone. But it was the signal's content that truly changed everything. A single set of coordinates, pointing to a location just beyond Mars' orbit. 3 months later, humanity watched in collective awe as the massive Kraxen vessel emerged from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. The ship, nearly the size of Manhattan, positioned itself in a stable orbit around Earth's moon. Their first transmission was broadcast simultaneously across every electronic device on the planet. "Greetings, primitive species designation human. We are the Kraxen Empire, guardians of civilized space. Your world has been selected for categorical study and eventual integration into our database of developing worlds. Resistance is unnecessary and will be met with immediate pacification." The Kraxen, as humanity would soon learn, were not the benevolent advanced civilization many had hoped to meet. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, with crystalline exoskeletons and multiple sets of manipulator arms, they viewed themselves as the pinnacle of evolution. Their empire spanned thousands of star systems, all carefully cataloged, controlled, and exploited for resources. To them, Earth was simply another primitive world to be studied and eventually stripped of anything useful. The Kraxen's chief xenobiologist, supreme researcher Vaxthal, took particular interest in humanity's biological diversity, though not in the way humans might have hoped. "Fascinating specimens," Vaxthal noted in his first report to the Empire's High Council. "Despite their obvious technological limitations and hierarchical inefficiencies, they display remarkable adaptability. Recommend immediate quarantine and controlled observation. Their tendency toward violent solution-seeking makes them potentially dangerous if allowed to develop unchecked." What the Kraxen failed to understand, however, was that humanity had no intention of becoming another specimen in their vast collection. In secret laboratories and hidden facilities across the globe, human scientists had already begun analyzing every scrap of data they could gather about their unwelcome visitors. Dr. Chen, now leading a classified research team in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, made the first breakthrough. Studying the quantum wake left behind by the Kraxen's faster-than-light arrival, she discovered something extraordinary. The aliens' seemingly advanced technology operated on principles that humanity had already theorized, but approached from an entirely different angle. "They're using brute force," she explained to a room full of military and scientific leaders. "Their entire technological base relies on overwhelming power to tear through space-time. But we've been working on something far more elegant." The project she unveiled that day would later be known as Operation Quantum Dawn, though at the time it seemed like little more than a desperate gamble. While the Kraxen continued their methodical study of Earth, cataloging its species and dismissing its inhabitants as primitive curiosities, humanity prepared for a revelation that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. In their arrogance, the Kraxen never bothered to hide their technological discussions from human observation. They saw no reason to conceal their superior knowledge from beings they considered barely more intelligent than the other animals they studied. This would prove to be their first critical mistake. Every transmission, every casual conversation between Kraxen researchers, every piece of data they collected was carefully analyzed and cross-referenced. Human quantum computers, hidden in shielded facilities deep underground, worked tirelessly to decrypt the principles behind their technology. As months passed, the Kraxen's presence became an accepted, if unwelcome, part of life on Earth. They established research outposts in remote locations, occasionally collecting human specimens for their studies. The world's governments maintained a facade of cooperative submission, all while preparing for the moment when humanity would reveal its true potential. Dr. Chen stood at her laboratory window one evening, watching the Kraxen ship gleaming in the moonlight above. "They think they're studying us," she whispered to herself, "but they have no idea that we're the ones learning from them." In her hand, she held a small device that would soon change the course of human history. The first prototype of a quantum core that operated on principles far beyond anything the Kraxen had imagined. The stage was set for humanity's greatest leap forward, and the Kraxen Empire was about to learn that underestimating humans would be the biggest mistake in their 1,000-year history. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a facility unknown even to most world governments, Project Quantum Dawn entered its final phase. The massive underground complex hummed with energy as Dr. Chen's team prepared to test their revolutionary quantum core design. Unlike the Kraxen's brute force approach to manipulating space-time, this new technology worked in harmony with the universe's fundamental forces. "Initialize quantum matrix," Dr. Chen commanded, her voice steadied despite the weight of the moment. The core, a deceptively small crystalline structure suspended in a magnetic field, began to pulse with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it. On dozens of holographic displays, numbers and equations flowed as the device reached its operational threshold. Above ground, the Kraxen continued their methodical study of Earth, completely unaware of the technological revolution brewing beneath their feet. Supreme Researcher Vaxthal had just finished his quarterly report to the Empire's High Council, noting with smug satisfaction the humans' apparent acceptance of their role as research subjects. "The specimens continue to display remarkable adaptability to our presence," he reported. "Though their technological progress remains stagnant, their social structures have shown interesting adjustments to accommodate our research requirements. I recommend extending the study for another standard cycle." What Vaxthal failed to notice was how perfectly coordinated that adaptation had been. Every nation on Earth now worked in concert, maintaining an elaborate charade of submission while channeling resources and intelligence to hidden facilities across the globe. The Kraxen's own communications network, which they hadn't bothered to secure against primitive human technology, had become humanity's greatest source of scientific advancement. In a secured chamber adjacent to the main lab, General Sarah Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force studied tactical displays showing the positions of every Kraxen vessel and installation in the solar system. "They'd grown careless," she observed to her staff. "Their patrol patterns are predictable, their defense systems automated. They don't expect resistance, so they don't prepare for it." The quantum core test reached its crescendo as energy readings exceeded anything the monitoring systems could measure. But unlike the Kraxen's destructive approach to faster-than-light travel, there was no violent tear in space-time. Instead, the fabric of reality seemed to ripple and fold around the device, creating what Dr. Chen's team had termed a quantum envelope. "Full power achieved," announced Dr. James Kumar, Chen's chief engineer. "Quantum stability at 100%. No detectable energy leakage." He paused, allowing himself a small smile. They won't see this coming. The implications were staggering. While the Kraxen relied on massive energy expenditures to force their way through space-time, humanity had developed a method that was not only more efficient but virtually undetectable. Ships equipped with these quantum cores could traverse vast distances without leaving the telltale wake that characterized Kraxen vessels. In orbital shipyards disguised as research stations, the first human vessels incorporating this technology were already under construction. Unlike the grotesque, crystalline bulk of Kraxen ships, these craft were sleek and elegant, their quantum cores integrated into designs that represented the perfect fusion of form and function. Dr. Chen stood before the assembled leaders of the United Earth Defense Force, her presentation reaching its conclusion. "The Kraxen's greatest weakness," she explained, "is their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They haven't advanced their technology in centuries because they believe they've reached the pinnacle of development. We've taken their basic principles and revolutionized them in ways they never imagined possible. General Rodriguez nodded in agreement. How long until the fleet is ready? The first wave of ships will be operational within 6 months, Chen replied. We've managed to miniaturize the quantum cores far beyond what we initially thought possible. Each vessel will have capabilities that make the Kraxen's technology look primitive by comparison. In his orbital research station, Vaxthal reviewed the latest data from his human studies, noting with mild interest some unusual energy readings from various points around the globe. His automated systems attributed them to normal geological activity, and he didn't bother to investigate further. After all, what could these primitive beings possibly achieve that would warrant his attention? As the stars wheeled overhead, humanity's secret revolution continued. In hidden bases across the planet, pilots trained on simulators that incorporated everything they'd learned about Kraxen tactics and technology. Engineers refined weapon systems that could penetrate crystalline armor with precise, quantum-guided strikes. And in laboratories like Dr. Chen's, new breakthroughs were made daily as humanity prepared to shake off their chains. The day of revelation approached, and with it, the moment when the Kraxen Empire would learn the true cost of underestimating human potential. They had expected submission and found ingenuity. They had sought to study humanity and instead taught them the keys to their own destruction. The silent revolution was almost complete, and the stars themselves would soon bear witness to its outcome. The day the Kraxen decided to quarantine Earth's solar system began like any other. Supreme researcher Vaxthal had detected what he believed to be unauthorized communications between human resistance groups. His response was swift, and he thought, overwhelming. A dozen massive Kraxen warships emerged from hyperspace, their crystalline forms catching the sun's light as they moved to encircle the planet. Attention primitive species, Vaxthal's message boomed across all frequencies. Due to detected irregularities in behavioral patterns, this system is now under complete quarantine. Any attempt to resist will result in immediate disciplinary action. In her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Rodriguez watched the Kraxen ships take position with a calm that would have unnerved their commanders had they seen it. She turned to Dr. Chen, who stood beside her monitoring quantum field readings. "Are we ready?" Chen nodded, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "All ships report quantum cores at full capacity. The Kraxen still haven't detected a thing." She paused, allowing herself a small smile. Operation Quantum Dawn is go. The first sign that something was wrong came when Vaxthal's sensors detected a strange ripple in spacetime. Unlike the brutal tear their own ships created, this was subtle, almost elegant. Before he could analyze it further, alarms began blaring throughout his command center. Emerging from what appeared to be folds in reality itself, the human fleet revealed itself. Sleek vessels, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, simply appeared among the Kraxen ships. There had been no warning, no energy signature to detect. One moment space was empty, the next it was filled with ships of a design that defied Kraxen understanding. "Impossible," Vaxthal breathed, his crystalline form vibrating with shock. "Their technology was primitive. We monitored everything." "Attention Kraxen Empire vessels." General Rodriguez's voice cut through their communications with perfect clarity. "For too long, you have treated humanity as specimens to be studied. Today, that changes. You will withdraw your forces immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly how much we've learned during your observation of our species." The Kraxen response was predictable. Pride and centuries of assumed superiority led them to believe that these upstart humans, despite their surprising technological leap, could not possibly match their military might. Vaxthal gave the order to open fire. What followed would be remembered in Kraxen military history as the Terran humiliation. The human ships, utilizing their quantum core technology, seemed to dance between the Kraxen energy beams. Where the Kraxen relied on raw power, humanity had developed precision. Each human vessel moved with impossible grace, their own weapons striking with surgical accuracy at weak points in the crystalline armor that the Kraxan didn't even know they had. Target their primary power distribution nodes, Rodriguez commanded. Dr. Chen's analysis shows they're vulnerable to quantum-phased attacks. The human fleet moved as one, their quantum cores allowing for instantaneous coordination that made traditional communications seem primitive. Beams of concentrated quantum energy lanced out, bypassing the Kraxan's supposedly impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. In his command center, Vaxthal watched in horror as ship after ship went dark. The humans weren't destroying them. They were systematically disabling every system, demonstrating a level of control and precision that the Kraxan had never achieved with their brute force approach. How? He demanded, broadcasting on all frequencies. How did you develop this technology without our knowledge? Dr. Chen's voice replied, calm and almost pitying. You gave us every piece of the puzzle. Supreme Researcher, while you were busy cataloging our biological characteristics, we were studying your every transmission, every casual conversation, every scrap of technical data you were too arrogant to hide. But more importantly, we saw the flaws in your approach and found a better way. Within hours, the mighty Kraxan quarantine fleet had been reduced to floating hulks, their crews trapped inside powerless ships. The human fleet surrounded them, their quantum cores humming with barely restrained energy. This is humanity's formal response to your attempted quarantine, General Rodriguez announced. We are not your specimens. We are not your subjects. We are your equals at minimum, and as you've just learned, perhaps more than that in some ways. As rescue ships arrived from the Kraxan Empire to collect their stranded crews, the message spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The humans, those supposedly primitive beings, had not only matched Kraxan technology, but had surpassed it in many ways, and they had done it right under the noses of their would-be oppressors. In the aftermath, as Dr. Chen reviewed the battle data, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had taken the Kraxan's own technology and refined it into something new, something better. They had turned the tools of their observation into the keys of their liberation. The age of human submission was over. Now, the galaxy would have to come to terms with a new power, one that had proven itself capable of not just matching, but exceeding the capabilities of its would-be masters. The chains were broken, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. News of humanity's victory over the Kraxan spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. On thousands of worlds, species that had long lived under Kraxan dominance began to whisper about the small young race that had accomplished the impossible. The humans had not only refused to submit, they had transformed their oppressors' own technology into something revolutionary. Dr. Chen found herself aboard the flagship of humanity's first diplomatic mission beyond their solar system. The Quantum Envoy, as it was called, represented everything humanity had achieved. Its quantum core technology allowed it to traverse vast distances with an ease that made traditional hyperspace travel seem crude by comparison. We're receiving a transmission, announced Captain Maya Torres, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display. It's from the Nexeri Alliance. The Nexeri, a coalition of species that had managed to maintain some independence from the Kraxan Empire through careful negotiation and trade, had reached out almost immediately after news of Earth's victory spread. Their message was simple. They wanted to learn more about these humans who had achieved what many thought impossible. The diplomatic meeting took place on Nexus Prime, a world that served as the Alliance's capital. Representatives from a dozen species gathered in a vast chamber whose architecture reflected the diverse beings who had built it. Dr. Chen stood before them, alongside General Rodriguez and a small team of Earth's diplomats. Your achievement against the Kraxan has sparked hope throughout the galaxy, spoke Zalvin, the Nexeri High Speaker. The being's iridescent scales shifted colors as it talked, a sign of intense emotion in their species. But we must ask, what are your intentions now that you have this power? General Rodriguez stepped forward, her uniform bearing the newly created insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. "Humanity has no desire for empire," she declared. "What we seek is partnership. We've learned that innovation flourishes best when different perspectives come together. Our quantum core technology is proof of that. We took the Kraxen's basic principles and transformed them by approaching them from a new angle." The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Species that had lived for centuries under Kraxen dominance saw in humanity not just a powerful ally, but a source of fresh ideas and approaches. The Nexari Alliance proposed an immediate technology exchange program. Within months, human quantum core technology began to spread through the Alliance worlds, while Earth gained access to advancements in biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and energy generation that they had never dreamed possible. But more importantly, they gained allies. The Tellarians, masters of biological engineering, helped humanity enhance their medical technology beyond anything previously imagined. The Vax Collective, experts in artificial intelligence, collaborated with human scientists to create neural interfaces that revolutionized spacecraft control. Each species brought their own unique perspective and expertise to the growing partnership. Meanwhile, the Kraxen Empire watched with growing concern as their former subjects began to slip from their grasp. Worlds that had once submitted to their authority now looked to the human Nexari Alliance as an alternative. The Empire's attempts to maintain control through force were met with increasingly sophisticated resistance. "They still don't understand," Dr. Chen observed during a meeting with Alliance leadership. "The Kraxen believe that power comes from dominance, from forcing others to submit. But we've proven that true strength comes from cooperation, from combining different perspectives and approaches." The human fleet, now enhanced by Alliance technology and often crewed by mixed species teams, continued to expand its presence throughout the galaxy. But unlike the Kraxen, they came not as conquerors, but as liberators and partners. Each encountered civilization was offered the same choice: join the Alliance as equals, sharing knowledge and resources for the benefit of all. On a distant world called Kilara, a young Kraxen scientist named Vexter watched a human Alliance ship land. Unlike his superiors, he had studied the humans with genuine curiosity rather than dismissive arrogance. What he saw in their approach to technology and cooperation fascinated him. Perhaps, he recorded in his personal log, "It is time for the Empire to learn from those we once thought primitive. The humans have shown us that true advancement comes not from forcing our way through obstacles, but from finding new ways around them." Back on Earth, in the same underground facility where Operation Quantum Dawn had been born, a new generation of scientists and engineers worked alongside alien colleagues. Together, they pushed the boundaries of what was possible, combining quantum technology with innovations from a dozen different species. The stars that had once seemed so far away were now within easy reach. Humanity had not only broken free from their would-be oppressors, but had helped forge a new kind of galactic society, one built on cooperation and mutual respect rather than dominance and submission. And this was just the beginning. The Kraxen Empire's Grand Council chamber had never seen anything like this before. For the first time in their 1,000-year history, representatives from Earth and the Nexari Alliance stood before them not as supplicants, but as equals. The crystalline architecture of the chamber, designed to intimidate visitors with its towering spires and impossible angles, seemed somehow less impressive now. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, stood alongside General Rodriguez and representatives from 24 Alliance species. Before them, the Kraxen High Council sat in their traditional formation, their crystalline forms catching and refracting light in ways that once would have seemed magical to human eyes. "You have destabilized the entire galaxy," declared High Counselor Zax Thor, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Centuries of order, disrupted by your interference. Primitive species rising above their station, demanding rights they haven't earned." "With respect, High Counselor," Chen responded, her voice calm but firm, "you confuse order with stagnation. The galaxy wasn't stable under your rule. It was suffocating. The evidence was undeniable. In the 3 years since humanity had broken free from Kraxan control, technological advancement across Alliance space had accelerated at an unprecedented rate. The combination of human ingenuity, Nexiri resources, and the unique perspectives of dozens of formerly suppressed species had led to breakthroughs that the Kraxan had never imagined possible. Your empire is facing a choice, General Rodriguez continued. You can continue to resist change, to cling to your belief in your inherent superiority, or you can join us as partners in building something greater than either of us could achieve alone. The council chamber erupted in discussion, crystalline forms vibrating with agitation. But one voice cut through the chaos. Vextor, the young Kraxan scientist who had been studying human methods, stepped forward from his position among the junior advisors. Esteemed council, he began, his form pulsing with nervous energy, I have spent the past 3 years analyzing human technological development and their alliance methodology. Their quantum core technology isn't just an improvement on our principles, it represents an entirely new way of thinking. They didn't succeed by being superior, they succeeded by being different. The chamber fell silent as Vextor displayed his findings. The data was irrefutable. Alliance worlds were advancing faster, producing more efficient technologies, and solving problems that had puzzled Kraxan scientists for centuries, all because they had learned to combine different perspectives and approaches. The humans didn't just defeat our quarantine fleet, Vextor concluded. They showed us that our entire approach to civilization was flawed. Power doesn't come from forcing others to submit to your way of thinking. It comes from learning to think in new ways. High Counselor Zaxthor rose from his seat, his crystalline form towering over the assembly. For a moment, tension filled the chamber as everyone waited for his response. Then, to the astonishment of all present, he did something no High Counselor had done in recorded history. He descended from the elevated council platform to stand at eye level with the Alliance representatives. Perhaps, he said slowly, it is time for the Kraxan Empire to learn a lesson in humility. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, believing ourselves to be its most advanced civilization. But true advancement, as you have shown us, requires more than technological power. It requires wisdom. The treaty that was signed that day would be remembered as the Dawn Accord. The Kraxan Empire agreed to join the Alliance as equals, not rulers. Their vast knowledge and resources would be shared freely, but they would also learn from those they had once dismissed as primitive. Dr. Chen stood at a viewport aboard the Quantum Envoy as they departed Kraxan space, watching the crystalline spires of the imperial capital glitter in the light of its twin suns. Beside her, General Rodriguez and Vextor discussed plans for integrating Kraxan technology with Alliance innovations. We've come so far, Chen mused, remembering that first signal that had arrived at her laboratory years ago. From being specimens in their zoo to reshaping the entire galaxy. The greatest innovation humanity brought to the stars wasn't technological, Vextor observed. It was the idea that different doesn't mean inferior, that strength comes from diversity rather than uniformity. As the ship engaged its quantum drive, creating those elegant ripples in space-time that had become humanity's signature, Chen couldn't help but smile. The stars had once seemed so far away, the galaxy an impossibly vast place ruled by beings who thought themselves gods. But humanity had proven that the universe belonged to no single species. It belonged to all who were willing to learn, to grow, and to work together. The new dawn had arrived, and with it, the promise of a future where the combined wisdom and creativity of 1,000 species would take civilization to heights that no one, not even the mighty Kraxan, had ever dreamed possible.